There are many reasons why the Ferrari 360 is one of the best-selling Ferraris to roll off the factory floor. Not only does it have the iconic Ferrari styling with abundant power and performance, but the maintenance costs are minimal as far as Ferrari service goes. And nice examples can be bought at a very reasonable price, again, relative to Ferrari pricing. The 360 is a mid-engine and rear-wheel drive manufactured from 1999 to 2005. It succeeded the 355 and was replaced by the 430 in 2005. When developing the 360, Ferrari partnered with Alcoa to produce an entirely all-new aluminum space frame chassis. This made the 360 40% stiffer than the steel chassis of the 355, while also becoming 28% lighter despite a 10% increase in the overall dimensions of the car. Along with a lightweight frame, the body styling shed the traditions of the previous decade's sharp angles and flip-up headlights. The new V8 engine utilizes a 3.6-liter capacity and generates a power output of 395 horsepower. The 360 production started with the Modena, which is this car right here, and it's just the coupe version. They made about 8,800 of the Modena, and then they came out with the 360 Spider, which they made about 7,500 of. And they're one of the best-selling Ferraris and very high production numbers, but for good reason. They're very affordable, but reliable and user-friendly cars. They also made the 360 Challenge Stradale, which literally means street race car. And then they came out with some challenge cars, which are track use only. They even had a one-off 360 Barchetta, which was made for Montezemolo, who ran Ferrari back in the 90s, but there was only one of those made. Now that we have the Modena here, we have actually done a video on all of the 360s. So the coupe, the Spider, the Challenge Stradale, and the race cars. When designing the 360, the engineers paid a lot of attention to aerodynamics. Those front radiator inlet grills right there allow airflow in and create so much downforce underneath the car, and it increases as you go faster. So the 360 could have as much as 4 times as much downforce as the 355, which is partially why people love the way it handles. The faster you go, it feels like it's just glued to the ground. If you're looking to buy a 360, one of the things to take into consideration as far as value goes is the options. Now, in early 1999, when these cars first came out, the 360 along with the 550 Maranello were both pretty much not very heavy on the options. You had a very limited choice. But as the years went on, and once you get into the later models, then you have a lot of options. So for instance, this car right here, it has the Challenge grille on the back, which is a very desirable option. And it also has the factory fender shields. And I've seen people put fender shields on cars, like just the kind of well done, but definitely not original kind of stickers. So if you're looking at these, you want to make sure that they're factory fender shields because they're actually recessed into the car, into the fender. And I had a client once who had a 550 Maranello. It didn't have shields. He wanted them. So he paid $5,000 per shield to have them put on the car. The difference between the 550 and the 360 is the fenders actually unbolt on the 550. So on the 360, it would cost a heck of a lot more because there's no unbolting the fenders. This car in particular has a couple of aftermarket options, which it becomes a very personal preference, especially with cars like 360s, because there were so many built, so you can basically have them however you want. For instance, this one, it's the darker silver with a lot of blacked out options. So the wheels are blacked out, the side markers, even the back Ferrari, the Cavallino and the Ferrari letters are tinted darker. The windows are a dark tint. So it's that very nice contrast, which, some people may not like it, but I personally love that color combination, and it adds that extra kind of aggressiveness to the look of the car, which I really like. Once you get into the 2000s and later models, then you have a lot of different options. So you could have modular wheels, or Daytona seats, or special colored piping around the seats. You could order special colored stitching if you want. If you want red stitching with your black interior, you could do that. This car, it has the red calipers, which was an option. And one of the ways to find out if all this stuff was done at the factory or aftermarket is if the car you're looking to buy or the one you have happens to have the window sticker, that will tell you exactly what came with the car when new. All of the cars come with a set of books, a set of tools, and a spare in a can, which is basically just that foam you put in your tire if you get a nail in it. I don't know anyone who's ever actually used that in their car if they get a flat, but just in case you're in a real tight spot, it is there. A couple other options these cars did come with is you could get things like, if you really go all out, you can get a fitted luggage set for the car, which is always really fun when you find those. You can get the trickle charger, which is definitely useful, and the factory ones actually work okay, so they're not horrible. And if you are, as far as we're in the front here, if you're ever curious what the exact name of the color of your car is, you can find that right here on the paint code just under the front bonnet. A lot of people shy away from purchasing a Ferrari because they've heard horror stories about the maintenance costs on these cars. And when you're talking about things like Testarossas, they're not wrong. Those can be very high maintenance and very costly because the entire engine needs to be dropped out of the back of the car. The whole rear end on those cars does. Now, as they evolve, that's one of the worst examples. Other cars, the engine does need to come out. It's a little simpler than the TR, but still a big production. But the 360s, one of the reasons I mentioned that they're user-friendly and good on maintenance, and one of the reasons why they are bestsellers is because the belt service can be done inside the car. So a lot of Ferraris have cam belts instead of cam chains, and they really need to be replaced every, a lot of people say 4 years, you could do 5 years, depending on how much you drive the car. But on a 360, that service is kept at a minimum, and it's only about $2,500, which is really good when it comes to Ferrari service costs. And then your annual service on these cars is only a couple $1,000s, which is, again, comparably really good on maintenance. So that's one of the reasons they've always been so popular. The stick shift 360s hold a significant amount of value over the F1s, but the nice thing about the F1 is it's second generation. The 355 was the first, so they're not nearly as lurchy as they were with the previous generation F1 transmission. Once you get used to the paddle shifts in this car, it's actually really nice to use. It just takes a little getting used to, a little playing with it, and then you get it down. And one of the interesting things, so it's pretty standard. It's right is up, left is down. You hit both for neutral. These cars also, like the 550, they have an immobilizer, which means you have to hit a button on the key, hit the little key fob to unlock it, and you have about 30 seconds to start the car, or the immobilizer will kick back in, and then when you try and start it, it just won't turn over. To get into reverse in this car, it's this little lever right here. So 430s and on, they have just a reverse button, but the 360s have this lever where you have to actually pull it up and back to put it into reverse, which is kind of funky, but I think they did it with the intention of kind of still having that stick shift in mind. I'm not sure if that's why, but that's kind of the feeling I get from it. They've also moved a couple things around in the car. So the horn is not right here. It's actually on the sides, right there. And then they also put the gas cap and the front bonnet openers right here. So they've kind of hidden things throughout the car where when you first get in, if you have no idea where anything is, you're just kind of looking around for stuff. Even though the windows they have in the center right here instead of where you normally look for them, either right here or on the center console. So it's a bit of a search and find mission, but once you get used to the layout, it's pretty easy to use. So one of the quirks about the 360 is they have made both the front bonnet and the fuel door electronic. So like I showed earlier, you have the little switches in the center console to open both. And you need to have the key on in your car in order to open them. Right now the car's off, so if I hit those buttons, nothing's going to happen. Now, if your battery does die, and it's a Ferrari, so your battery will probably die at some point, then luckily they have made emergency releases. There's one for the front right up under the dash, but the one for the back really cracks me up. So basically, luckily they have made the rear hatch actually just physical like that, so you can open it when the car's off. But if there's any reason why you can't open your door and your battery's dead and you need to open the rear or the gas cap, you're a little bit out of luck because basically when you open the rear, then you're able to open the little emergency gas cap right there, gas door. And then the emergency lever for this is right here in the gas door. So if for any reason you can't get into the door to open this one, then these two are locked inside each other and you're out of luck. I've mentioned sticky switches before, but I hate them so much that I feel the need to mention them again. So if you're buying a car like this, and this applies to the 360s, 550s, 430s, a large range of cars, and I just can't stand sticky switches. So it is on all the plastic in the car. It's like this soft touch material that melts in the sun, and it gets on your clothes and your hands, and it's just impossible to get off. It'll get on the seats and the door pan. It sucks. I hate it. So you want to look for a car that's either already had it done, or if you're going to need to have it done, it's about $2,500, not the end of the world, but there's the labor and all that to get it done. And if it's gotten on the interior, that takes a lot to clean up. So in my opinion, it's just easier to get one that's had it taken care of, unless you can get a good deal on one you still have to worry about the sticky switches. Another thing on 360s, I've mentioned before the numbering systems on Ferraris. They're a bit interesting. And so on something like a 355, it's 3.5 liter 5 valve, or a 328 is 3.2 liter 8 cylinder. On the 360, it's a 3.6 liter 5 valve, but Ferrari already has a 365 series, and the 365, like the Daytonas, it's 365cc per cylinder times 12 cylinder. It's a little more complicated of a numbering system. So on the 360, I think they just kind of went along with 3.6 liter, let's throw a 0 on the end and call it a day. So that's the numbering system on this car, which always gives me a good laugh. I hope you guys have learned a little bit about the 360s from this video and enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned because I got a lot more videos coming up real soon.